one's the best crypto asset? Bitcoin's the best crypto asset. Which one's the best? 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 What's the second best?
This is Discover Crypto, and we are in the midst of a bloodbath. You can see Bitcoin is now crashing on the charts. We're looking at the 20-minute. We go to the 1 minute. You can see pushing down just as we speak, just as we hit live. You can see massive movements to the downside here at 10:30. I'm joined here by Drew and TJ, and we're going to talk about the crash. We got a lot of stuff with low liquidity day, folks. It is Chinese New Year and President's Day, so be very careful. Volatility is going to be high.
Yeah, illiquid Monday for sure. Quiet over the weekend. I actually had a little bit of fun Friday, Saturday, but yeah, pretty quiet yesterday. And then I did see the chat saying, daily reminder, we've got an 84K DME gap to the upside. And yeah, quiet liquidity days where a lot of people aren't trading. You can get some fireworks to the upside and to the downside. It looks like
look at those drops there.
Yeah,
brutal
downside to.
Drew, are you looking at any trades? Is there anything on your radar? And I'm going to show you the folks, the Discord trading. We got the weekly report, and maybe a little bit later after we cover some of these stories. But right now, yeah, we can see massive move to the downside. Drew, I don't know. Are you in a trade as we speak?
I'm not in a trade as we speak. I'm actually sitting here just gathering FOMO for one of the bigger DeFi plays. Morpho has been just going nuts over the last week. This swoop to the downside, I still feel like what we're seeing is basically selling rallies, right? I feel like that's what's kind of going on right now. So every time we rally, it seems like we just pull back and kind of give it back up here. I'll make this a little bit bigger here. On the weekly is what I'm really using to figure out when the aggregate uptrend truly begins again. I know we're bringing it up in the chat that there's like an $84,000 CME gap and all that stuff's great, but really, this is what I'm paying attention to. And we are trying, I think it'd be a little bit too soon to be able to dig ourselves out of this downtrend, like in an aggregate. Right now, I have to be careful. I don't like trading Mondays or Fridays, and I especially don't like trading Wall Street hours. I have the most fun getting in a position in the Asian trading hours. So, as it sits right now, man, I mean, I really think that at least retesting where this wick was at about $60,000 and playing around in the guts of this zone makes a whole heck of a lot of sense for how the money flow looks at the time being. And really, the biggest thing, this is my favorite chart of today, DZ. This one, the DeFi TVL. It's actually defending itself very nicely here at about $98 billion in TVL for DeFi, which is something I wanted to see happen in aggregate, a higher low on DeFi involvement, because this means that some of the deeper DeFi plays and the altcoins that we've been picking out actually might be at a point where they can strongly defend these levels, regardless of all the chaos.
Yeah, I've got a random tidbit. Speaking of weekends, speaking of Wall Street, all those sorts of things, it's pretty. I just learned this recently. I don't know if you guys knew this or not. Did you know that the 2-day weekend was a result of trying to increase spending after the Great Depression crash?
Really?
Yeah, so it used to be 6-day work weeks, and then there were, back then manufacturing was really big, cars, tires, all that sort of stuff. And so they were like, hey, if we gave people a 2-day weekend, they're going to do weekend trips. They're going to go buy, they're going to go fishing. They're going to go hunting. They're going to have to go buy all this stuff to go do it. And the same guy who was pushing that also he pushed for, speaking since we're on a President's Day today, that federal holidays outside of Christmas, basically, and New Year's, all be placed on a Monday to create 3-day weekends. And, again, to increase spending. It was all designed to get people to spend more money. So if you're in the camp that, some of these holidays are a scam to get you to spend money, you are not wrong. You guys can look it up. His name was, I think it was John. Last name was Raskob, John J. Raskob, also the same guy who kind of organized the Democratic national convention, or really the Democratic Party. In a lot of ways, very interesting. I'm learning it from that 1929 book. So I never knew that.
Yeah. Andrew Ross Sorkin just released that book if you guys want to check that out. But cutting back to Bitcoin, still dumping here on the 1 minute chart. You can see maybe we're going to try to turn this thing around. But you can see every minute except for this one just subsequently going lower and lower and lower. When is this bleeding going to stop? I'm about to hit refresh, and we're about to see a sea of red on this 1 hour. It says 0.4 to the downside. We hit refresh. It is now 1.5 to the downside. What is alarming, I just refreshed this like 10 minutes ago. So we're talking like a 10-minute update here. ETH is now down 3.2%. We can see BNB down 2.5%. Solana down 4.5%. How about that Dogecoin now down 8%? Cardano holding on a little stronger than most, down 2%. And Chainlink also looking pretty decent. And Canton, one of Drew's favorites there, looking for the gainers. Stable. I'll have to look more into that one. Pippin, still looking good on the back of this AI news. We're seeing a lot of AI news. Tau also up on some of this AI news here. Looking for the big losers. Rain, Dogecoin, Pepe. So meme coins getting beaten down. And the top L1 for meme coin, Solana, also getting down. And Monero peeling back some of these gains as well. So that's what we're seeing in the charts. And XRP and XLM also with some dumps. And if you watch yesterday's video, we called these XRP moves almost to a T. And we are going to chart Cardano, chart XRP, chart ETH, and chart Bitcoin today. So if you hold any of those altcoins, smash that like button. Make sure you're sticking around. I do want to show this Bitcoin chart. I noticed something on the 4 hour. I wish it could have happened sooner because I was going to make this prediction. This is the 4 hour 50 EMA here, is the exponential moving average. I drew this arrow down because when we rejected last time, it was a quick and sudden move to the downside. And I just noticed that, well, hey, it looks like we rejected again right here. I was going to ask the question, are we going to see a quick move to the downside? And it looks like, at least in the short term, the bears are trying to push it that direction. Now, also some bearish news before I turn it over to a little bit of bullishness. The fourth weekly negative close and the fourth close below the 100-week moving average. The first weekly close below the previous cycle all-time high. Momentum to the downside. And we go to the weekly here. Weekly closed, what are we looking at, 15 hours ago. And I just want to zoom in, make sure we are on candles. We might be on Heiken Ashi. Let's go to candles here. That weekend close, right? Yeah, look at that. That is below the previous all-time high. The week close at 68,800 roughly. And you can see that the all-time high, wicked 68,900.
Mm-hmm.
Does this mean the bear market's here? Are we going even lower? Obviously, we're in a bearish period. 5 months bearish price action.
Lower than what? 65, 60, or like new low? What you mean?
Yeah, I mean, it looks like potentially revisiting the wick that we saw here. So maybe, pushing down, maybe even below 60.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly what I'm looking for. And it's super unhealthy if the market just V-shape recovers from here. What we want to see is accumulation and a range built at this previous all-time high range, right? And you're kind of highlighting exactly that swooping turnaround moment that we've seen in each bear market past, where you have that deep wick to the downside and then a slower grind to the downside as the bullish divergence happens on the MACD on the underside with the kind of technical indicators. So this is not like out of the norm to see Bitcoin do this. Yeah, it's been awe-inspiring to see it fall by 50%. But honestly, man, like we're at a point where you're going to see just basic whiplash moments. You're going to see people get basically, I don't know how to say the best way, but exhausted out of not seeing the price go back to, and maybe they top blasted, maybe they came in at the wrong times. And this is where the market will shake people out, because you'll see all the bullish fundamentals happening, and yet price will just keep grinding in this range. That's personally how I feel for the next few months, which honestly is incredible for me because I've been mapping out where I want to put my money. And I hope the market stays low in this range for as long as possible.
Yeah, and I'm with you with the grinding in the range for the next couple months at least, if not longer. But I'd probably land more with this guy here, that a lot of people are expecting it to dip a lot further at this point. Like that seems to be consensus, is we're going to see a much deeper dip. And I think most of the move is in. I do think, we'll probably stay close to 65. If we do go below 60, if we lose that 59, it's probably a pretty short path into some very dramatic lows like 48. And I think just based on what we've seen in the past, that 60K was far enough past previous cycle all-time high. I do think we'll be grinding and it'll take a while for things to flip, but I do expect us to stay in this range for a while. So,
right. And you do see we did break down below the 200-week moving averages. I'm going to work on a video tonight. I may have found a different indicator that so many indicators you see. All right, well, it pretty much called a bottom. And you're like, well, no, it went below. And yeah, it went below. What are you talking about? Calls the bottom. I might have found an indicator that actually hits the bottom here, and I will work on that and determine what is the price that we might be looking at for Bitcoin. I did say I want to highlight what we're doing in the Discord. This is the past week. Posted this 4 a.m. You can see a lot of wins. But if you go for the low risk strategy where you just close the trade at take profit one, the safe take profit one strategy still netted 500% gains. And if you go into the chat here for trading, you just see a lot of people getting their wins. So we have a link down below for the Discord. You join in, sign into one of our partners. You can access all of this for free, and you can get his calls. He puts these trades up. If I had to give any downside, there's no free lunch. Sometimes they're like 1 a.m. Sometimes they're like at 3 a.m. oftentimes. So if you're a night owl, this is perfectly built for you, folks. Check that out. Now, let's get back in a little bit more bearishness before we turn a little bullishness. Bitcoin's ultimate bear bottom sitting near 55K. That's its realized price. But again, this is kind of to my earlier point. It goes below there. It goes below there here. It goes below there. So I will start I think I found maybe the one. Now, this could be something potentially bullish here. We are seeing an Adam and Eve chart pattern. Indicates a potential trend reversal here in the market. It's a sharp V-shaped Adam peak followed by the more gradual rounded Eve trough. They often use the Adam and Eve pattern to identify buying opportunities, with the completion of the E formation signaling a possible bullish turn. So it's V-shaped, rounded bottom, often slightly higher for the Eve. And if you look at that right there, V-shaped, rounded bottom, slightly higher for the Eve. So we do have a technical chart saying, all right, got a little bit of upside. Another chart showing a little upside. We talked about this last week. This is supply and profit, supply and loss. When they converge, we often see price reversals. You could kind of zoom in a little bit here. Let me zoom into this image. Right here, bear market bottom, you go straight. That's pretty much where they converge, although they did overlap. Here you can see it. They start to converge, do overlap, but that is also the bottom. Someone pointed out when you zoom in on the 1 hour chart and on the 10-minute, they have fully converged. Lowest recorded price was 63K. Doesn't capture the final capitulation wick. 3% of the supply sits in this area. So to TJ's point, to your point here, maybe we're close to a bottom. This is a pretty good sign. So this is one to pay attention to, folks.
Yeah, and there was another thing we saw in our morning report that we've got some Satoshi era wallets actually buying. We've been talking a lot, especially near the tops when it was in the 120s, there was a lot of Satoshi era wallets selling. I want to say it was a 2012 wallet that had 7,000 something Bitcoin in, or maybe they just bought 7,000 more Bitcoin. I'd have to go pull the exact story up. But yeah, I think it was like $400 million worth of Bitcoin, a wallet that's been holding it since 2012, actually accumulating more. And so anytime you see that, that's often a good sign as well. When you've got the oldest money out there is accumulating, and a lot of what you see selling are the recent participants. Really the main capitulation coming out from people that got involved in 2025. So yeah, something to keep an eye on there. I do feel like we're near a bottom. These are the areas to accumulate, in my opinion. So yeah. Oh, there it is right there. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, it looks like a legendary Satoshi era whale added 26,000 Bitcoin to its position, worth more than $2 billion. Track record of buying every major dip since 2015. When capital of this size steps in, it's rarely random. Now, I haven't verified this for myself, but this does seem to be pretty legit here, folks. So Asaf Namani, serial entrepreneur, posting this. That's just another sign that we may be potentially nearing a bottom. I got one more for you here. Could it get worse? Maybe not. Look how bad it has been. Bitcoin's down 22%. It could be the worst Q1 since 2018. It posts a loss at the end of this month. It will be the first time ending both January and February in the red. And I have the monthly right here. I had to look myself. We've never had January and February in the red, fellas. Now, does this mean it can't happen?
I love this. I mean, honestly, man, everyone that thinks that the idea of proof of compute is on its way out as we see AI doing what it's doing, I absolutely love us breaking the norms. And really, why would
No, Drew, we're breaking the norms to the downside.
I know, good. I mean, good. Like this is giving me so much opportunity to buy near the previous all-time high. It feels like last time we were trying to nail near previous all-time highs. Yeah, it lasted a pretty good amount of time, but I've never felt more confluence in Bitcoin than I have right now. And this cycle has been different since we hit all-time highs early, right?
Mhm.
I mean, nothing hard-sidedly about the 4-year cycle has repeated. If you acknowledge the true metrics that you wait until after the halving to hit the all-time high, all those different things, macro fibs meant nothing this last blow off top. This is and honestly, there's 32 top indicators that didn't trigger, right?
Yeah.
There's been
I was
massive
thinking of
amount.
something else too, because, well, it topped Q4, post-election or pre-election year. Okay, all right, sure. Post-election year, top Q4. It was October 6th, meaning if it happened a week earlier, it would have been Q3. And with all these people championing, Q4. Yeah, we all made a prediction around Q4. I did September 27th. You're talking about 90-day frameworks here. I'm putting it down to the day and getting it a week off. Would they all just be saying, well, I was wrong, or I was wrong? Or would they say, well, mealy mouth say it's close enough? I think they'd all say it's close enough.
Yeah, they would. I mean, and I agree with Drew. There's definitely been a lot of, and I think most honest analysts would say this cycle has been very different than a lot of the ones in the past. There's definitely been similarities, but largely a lot of major things that people point to as consistent have been inconsistent. The other thing that was interesting about that monthly chart you just brought up is that's basically the worst Q1 in 8 years since 2018. I mean, it was 22% down if you're looking quarter over quarter. Yeah, there you go. The last one that was like that was 2018 right there at 49%. So and then you got to go all the way back to 2016 to see another one. So there's been a lot of inconsistencies, but here's what I like to look at is the net unrealized profit loss. This is kind of what shows max pain a lot of times when people are in max profit. That's usually euphoria, and then max loss, that's usually the pain. And we're kind of this, I would say, would line up with what you guys were talking about of maybe it going a little bit lower to get below that red line. But yeah, to me, this is the difference of nation states, which I said as we were going into this. They don't play fair. They control regulation. They control money supplies. We'll call it central banks, call it nation states, whatever you want to say. When they're ready to participate, they are going to create beneficial conditions for themselves. So I think, to me, that's why we're seeing such a different type of cycle. It's very fascinating to me to watch Bitcoin holding strong. There's some alts that were popping off. I saw somebody in the chat talking about Morpho having a strong weekend, which it absolutely did. There was a big announcement on that. We're going to probably do a video on later this week, or at least some shorts. But and then Harvard, interestingly, pivoting from selling Bitcoin but buying other crypto, which is also interesting.
Yeah,
so
and I got all the details. I got the dollar amounts. I got the amount of shares. I got all that news. Back to the Q1. I do want to just share this. It is pretty nasty here. It's on track to see the first ever consecutive January and February in the red. It's only seen 2 consecutive first quarter of losses, 2018 and 22. So we're definitely in rarefied air at the moment here. But the first quarter is known for its volatile nature, as according to Dan Trade. So it's safe to say whatever happens to Q1 doesn't generally translate further down the line. So you're not going to see much correlation between Q1 and Q2. But look at the monthly here. Last time we saw a string of red months, it essentially was the bottom, and the 5th month marked the bottom with the wick there. You can see we opened slightly lower, but we would wick lower a little bit more in December relative to January here. This is all the way back in 2018. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's go to where we're at right now. We're looking at monthly candles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Remember, the wick of the 5th month was the bottom. And if you look right here, we're kind of matching the previous liquidity zone. And you got to do it on, let's see, make sure we got that looking good. And if you look right here, also kind of maybe dip. I mean, if you include the wick, also hit the last liquidity zone. It's a little bit harder to tell without it being on log. There you go. So didn't quite hit the lows. Meanwhile, this time we are below, or the highs. Now we are below the highs here. So just looking at a lot of crazy stuff here. This is even crazier here. And thank you for the $5 super chat, Devin Bowerman. Because of the business cycle, any chance the true peak is right before the next halving? By true peak, I guess you're meaning relative. I don't like any of those relative things, kind of like with the power laws. Like, well, now Bitcoin's most undervalued to gold according to the power law. And you're like, well, no, it was lower in 2014. So what are you talking about here? So true peak, I just like dollar amounts. Give me the dollar peak here, not true in quotation marks. But is there a chance the true peak is right before the next halving? We hit all-time high pre-halving last cycle, so why couldn't we accelerate it an additional 6 months? So that's very well within the realm of possibility there. Maybe you have to be closer to 12 months ahead of time, but we've already seen the cycles moved ahead. And so you're asking, can they continue to move ahead? Yes. Yes, they can.
I would agree. It's definitely possible.
100% possible. Now, this is going to blow you away. 618, 786. What am I talking about? I'm talking about flower petals. I'm talking about Fibonacci extensions here. It's in nature everywhere. It's, you know, your femur bone connected to your pinky. It's everywhere. So human beings were made up of, came from nature. Maybe there's a little correlation here. So far, every cycle bottoms formed under the 618. Very far below it at first, but increasingly closer to it with every cycle. So we go way below and then slightly below. And then we're going to kind of track all the bottoms here. 618 now, 57K. So right here, we're looking at 2013. So we start from the bottom and we go up to the top, or sorry, top to the bottom here. And so if you look here, we hit a peak. We dip below the 786 like a week later. Very volatile. Same week, actually. No, next week you can see it dip below. Let's go to the next cycle. Now we're in the 2014 top. We go from the bottom, and then we go to the peak here. We actually dip below the 786. Let's go all right, Bitcoin's too new. Let's get a real cycle here, right? We start at the bottom. Oh, crap. All right, here we go. We move it to the peak. Look at that. We go below the 786 every single time. Now we're in a real cycle, 2021. We go high. Do we go below the 786? Well, what do you know? We go below the 786. Well, what about this cycle? Because remember, we're not only passing below the 618, we're going below the 786 every single cycle. So let's look at this cycle. All right, we get our top, 126. We haven't even hit the 618. And so I like the target of a 618. 786, remember, we also go below this every time. $40,000 Bitcoin, $57,000, $58,000 Bitcoin. I don't know if you fellows have any thoughts here. Are we going to see a $40,000 Bitcoin chat? Yes or no? It's going to repeat. We're going to see a $40,000 Bitcoin. So type yes if we see 40K. Type no if you think we do not go that low.
I'd say no.
Yeah, go ahead, Drew. Yeah,
you got to know, Drew?
I got to know, man. Like, looking at this, I've had a theory of a 50% drawdown from new all-time highs for like 3 or 4 years, just because we saw ETFs coming in. We saw bigger players, not just the native crypto degen or old Bitcoin holders swapping into ETH and then swapping out. This is a new ball game. And so with BlackRock coming in and nation state narratives, not just open buying, but the nation state narrative and the intention to do so in general, I've had this theory that we'd have a 50% drawdown from the all-time high. And this metric is painting that exact picture. We're at a 52% drawdown from $126,000. The 618 lands right at about $58,798. Now, yeah, I think it's totally possible we could wick down for a short period of time on some crazy macro news down to like 54, 55, the lower bound of that ETF accumulation range on the screen to the left of the magnet for sure. That's not out of the game, but dropping below $40,000, it's too good to be true for my long-term holding and accumulation thesis. And really, this setup of this market is hard for people that aren't like you guys brought up ISM. a lot of the business activity is actually moving into robotics, nuclear energy, rare earth minerals, a different sector, right? But this sector of robotics and AI actually overlaps with cryptography and decentralized compute systems at a point. So how?
I said Tau.
Well,
Yeah.
Tau, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and this is where, like, you know, I feel like I'm investing way too early in Bitcoin, but it's okay because that is how I can create a stupid amount of wealth for my kids, is by being too early and being too stubborn. And so when I see these charts, yeah, a wick down to 55K, definitely within possibility, but like I I want to show this. I think this is worth showing. This is the Market Cipher Weekly, and the Market Cipher Weekly is nearing its most oversold, lowest momentum wave we've ever seen. It's at a negative 74. The only time we've breached this level was on December 18th when Bitcoin was like $3,000. That was the only time that the weekly momentum wave has gotten worse than it is right now. And as the structure stands, it is trying, chaotically enough, this VWAP is trying to trigger a swing to the upside. Now, in this, I'm still being cautious, and it does take us a while to dig ourselves out of these deep tranches, but we don't get these opportunities where the weekly has moved down to this oversold very often in Bitcoin's entire history, right? We've seen this 1, 2, 3, and we are on the 4th chance to reaccumulate bags. Now, this is a conversation where it's like, what class of crypto do you come from? I'm class of 2020. I'm the class of the COVID crash. I'm the class that basically moved in on Bitcoin and crypto when it wasn't even this deeply beat down to the downside, but the price still cascaded down to like $3,000 or $4,000. People that are new, that have got in at 21 peaks and they've been trying to accumulate just altcoins and not Bitcoin through the entirety of this last cycle, I completely understand why you are upset. Is because you are going after something that I think you and TJ brought this up last show and made a short out of it, where regulatory clarity wasn't there for things like Uniswap and Chainlink and Aave, these structurally important parts of crypto, to return that equity into the token holders' hands. And so that is where the aggravation, I think, really lies, is a lot of people see these systemically important parts of crypto, they invest into them, but we're not necessarily available to see that value strewn across the entire ecosystem because they had regulatory uncertainty. Now, will they reverse engineer that equity sharing program to give Chainlink, to give Aave, and to give Uniswap that mega moon math that those projects honestly deserve? I don't know. I don't know if that'll happen. That's a question I wanted to ask you guys, is kind of expanding on that. But honestly, like, we've had this deep of sell-offs in Bitcoin and the sentiment 4 times in the entire history. We hit the worst fear level we have ever seen last week, a 5. We did a video on it. I put in a video calling at the bottom. And in essence, I feel like this entire range is the bottom. I know many people disagree with me and they think, you know, some macro cataclysm are going to happen to the downside. I never leave that out of the realm of possibilities, but it's not a probability. And that is what I trade on and accumulate on, is probabilities, not possibilities. So that you just think about that.
Yeah, I'm curious, chat. I'm seeing a couple people put in what class they are, 2017, 2020, 2021. I saw a class of 2014 in here, but everybody say, kind of put in the year you got into crypto in the chat. I would just be curious.
You guys know the Lord of the Rings meme where I believe it's not Boromir. It's showing the old story of they're like, throw the ring in the lava from like thousands of years ago. And the human's like, no, I don't think I will. You remember that part of the movie?
Yeah,
Sure,
that was me in 2014. My buddy who had lost his Bitcoin on Mount Gox. He had lost his Bitcoin by just losing his seed phrase. And he's like, you got to buy it with me. I'm buying it a 3rd time. It wasn't a gold ring. It was ounces of silver. And I'm like, no, I don't think I will. That's my story. Then I ended up buying the bear market of 2018.
Yeah, I was 2017 riding it up, buying in 2017, buying the absolute peak top January 2018, and then like riding it all the way down 2018, buying, accumulating,
I remember
yeah,
being obsessed with it in 2017, but it kept like doubling every month. And I was in accounting class
Yes.
and we're all like talking about it. And so we're talking about the fall of 2017 where it eventually hit 20K in December. It's like, yeah, I definitely want to buy some, but it's like $1,000. Well, I want to buy some now, but now it's like $2,000. Now it's like $4,000. Now it's like $10,000. Now it's like $20,000. So I just kept on the sidelines. And the second it hit 10, that's when it's like my first purchase is like 9. I'm like, oh, this is it. It would go all the way down to 3.
Or yeah, 3,800. And I, what those fibs you brought up were it's obviously very compelling to look at, but I am still in the camp of what we saw. I think the the one above it, is we're
The
hitting that,
618.
yeah, the 60K. And that's why I say if we lose 60K, it's a fast trip into the 40s, for sure, and because there's not, like, you can see there's some volume, there's some support there. But if we lose that support,
yeah, look there, 618, traipsing along. The very next weekly candle, it hits it.
yeah. And
so you're perfectly right there, TJ.
You're going to be in the 40s. You're going to be 48, maybe 45, that sort of thing. A lot of these people, they're saying, oh, I think we go into the 50s and we hold there. Like, not likely, but I'm still much more on the macro than the technical, from my opinion. And to a lot of the points Drew made, and it's just the way it feels right now, is we are near a bottom. We're very oversold on a lot of levels. We're very, like the one I showed, the unrealized losses are high. The losing streak is high. The time is high. And the macro and the regulation is as bullish as it's ever been. Again, with BlackRock and Fidelity and the U.S. government and other governments, everybody's pushing and moving towards this. And we saw one thing that was interesting to me to watch over this weekend, and this is what I would encourage all of you guys to do when you're not buying, you should still be very much engaged in watching the prices and seeing what happens. So over the weekend, I don't know if it was Friday or Saturday, maybe a combination of both, where Bitcoin was pretty much staying flat, 69, 70, maybe 68, but I think it was pretty much between 69 and 70. And you saw a handful of altcoins really pop, like we're moving. Morpho was one of them. Tau was one of them. Midnight was moving well, and Zcash. But the main ones I was watching were Zcash, Tau, and Morpho, all performing extremely strongly while things were largely flat. And that it's kind of, in my opinion, foreshadowing of what we can expect to see if and when altcoins do really start to have their day in the sun. That's usually when Bitcoin's trading sideways. I think we're going to see those ones that in the categories of AI, specifically agenic use of AI like Tau. Privacy, I think, will probably largely be the number one narrative of this next cycle. But Zcash, DZ's already talked about a lot, and Midnight both, I think, are going to perform extremely well during this next cycle. And then on-chain credit, lending and borrowing, that's where Morpho does. Aave, you guys know I love DeFi, and I think DeFi, AI, and privacy will be the main narratives. And I saw that some foreshadowing over the weekend. So those are some that I'm looking to try to find good entries on while you have the opportunity at these low levels. Obviously, I've been very much buying Bitcoin and Ethereum on these dips, but you can, you're getting into some of the areas where if dipping your toes in on some of these altcoins could reward you handsomely if you pick the right ones that ride the narrative. And
I do want to jump on this real quick. So Beat saying if the S&P drops, Bitcoin's going to crap its pants. Bitcoin's going all the way down to 35K. So saying more than a 50% drawdown. Let's see what the facts say. Now, is there going to be an S&P drawdown? Probably. S&P is this red line. Blue line is going to be Bitcoin. Right now, we're at just 2 trend lines catching from the bottom to the bottom. You can see, all right, hitting some resistance right here. And I can move this to candles. Do that in a sec. But then we also got just the top line trend line also showing a breakdown. But what does happen if the S&P falls, say 20%? It's only fallen, a couple of percent right now. Last time we saw a huge drawdown, it was the tariff tantrums. It was going to be like March, April 2025. Bitcoin also fell. It fell from 103 to 80K. So it fell about 25%. So 50% puke. I don't know if I see it there. And then we have another drawdown. We have the drawdown right here. This is going to be July 23. see the S&P falling pretty dramatically, Bitcoin would go from 30K to 25K. So yeah, sure, a little drawdown, 50%. Just the facts don't support it. But if the S&P breaks down, Bitcoin will have a drawdown. But when Bitcoin's drawdown into the stock market drawdown ahead of time, kind of front ran it, you don't see Bitcoin puke 50%. And so if you're expecting Bitcoin to fall 50%, you might be disappointed. Now, we also have a pretty busy week ahead. I just want to kind of throw out some of the things that we're expecting this week here. S&P stock, everything's up for the futures, but everything is shut down. Investors are moving past the recent concerns about AI disruption. But the recent trading sessions, we have seen the stock broken down. Software is down, wealth management's down, trucking is down. All these businesses, all the investors are worried they could be disrupted by AI tools. But the week ahead, we could see a shift. The data calendar includes Friday numbers. We're going to get GDP numbers. A lot of eyes on that. We're also getting housing numbers, the PMI numbers. We're getting manufacturing numbers, and we're getting services activity numbers here. And companies to include are going to be Walmart. We got Riot Platforms. A lot of eyes are going to be on Walmart. Walmart's a large bellwether for the economy, and they're the first retailer to hit $1 trillion valuation. And we kind of mentioned it briefly here. Everything's closed for President's Day, but also Asian markets, China, South Korea, Taiwan, Vietnam, closed for their Lunar New Year holiday, also known as the Chinese New Year, also known as the first New Year past the winter solstice. Typically, sometimes it's the second one there. So there's a little, not geography fact, I guess kind of a geography fact.
I got a geography or geology fact. This is just breaking news. Just let me find it. Just came in. Apparently, the U.S. discovered a lithium deposit under an ancient volcano in Nevada, and this one reason right here is one of the main reasons I prefer Bitcoin over metals, because you never know. And there is somebody did fact check it. Grok, yes, studies confirm. This is where it's at. But $1 billion lithium deposit. Interesting time for discovery there. Coming in hot on the weekend or on the week. So yeah, just interesting to keep an eye on as things progress.
I've seen this movie, guys. I have seen this movie. I don't know. We start digging under ancient underground dormant volcanoes.
Yeah.
Listen, what could go wrong? What could go wrong?
What could go wrong?
We're gonna find an infinity stone down there.
God, that's where the aliens are, y'all.
That's right.
That's where the UFOs are. TJ did mention Harvard trimmed its Bitcoin ETF holdings 21%, but they're also buying some ETH. So they reduced their iShares. That's right. They buy BlackRock iShares. Big surprise. They opened, though, a new position in the iShares ETH Trust. Bitcoin is still their largest publicly disclosed holding with a reported value of $265 million. We were checking the emails, so I think it's still their largest position here. The endowment has combined $350 million exposure to the two digital assets. Now, the position for Bitcoin represents a 1.48 million share reduction. Harvard used to have 6.81 million, so you can see, what kind of drawdown that is. They opened a new position in ETH as their first publicly disclosed position in a fund tracking ETH here. They exceeded their endowment stakes in Google, Microsoft, and Amazon. So they have more Bitcoin than the big tech giants here, just kind of showing you how bullish they are. Let's go to the ETH chart here. I want to point something out. We pointed out the RSI is oversold, and we started to see some very, very strong hidden divergence. Now it's continuing to play out. We can go to the 12-hour, just see, is it still holding? And look at that nice turnaround here on the strong, this relative strength index. This is showing strength in the market. As you can see, as the price is flat, the RSI is continually putting in higher lows, suggesting a potential turnaround. Does not mean it can't do one more leg down with the RSI still being pressed high. But ETH is looking very, very good. One might even say somewhat of a falling wedge, which is a bullish chart pattern right there. So it's an argument depending on how you want to measure the wicks there. But ETH is pushing down. If we go lower, just check the next swing low. It's going to be below $1,500. I would expect a lot of support right around $1,400. Do you guys think ETH is going to 14?
It wasn't that long ago that it was at 1,400. I'll say that much. But I like it. I like ETH under 2K, and that's kind of where I'm talking about. Yes, you can try to time the exact bottom. There is a chance it goes to 1,400. But I would buy it anywhere between 1,400 and 2K. Obviously, if it goes lower, I'd still buy it. But 2K to me is a very, very good place to be buying it. So, ooh, hit that. You got to.
Yeah, we're in a little ETH long, and folks, we put trades in the Discord, so make sure you join the Discord. It is down below here. XRP news. We're gonna do some XRP charts here. XRPL Commons director. So it's a company that builds on the XRP ledger. The director says MasterCard, BlackRock, Franklin Templeton have expressed interest in the XRPL. This was an interview that she did at a digital summit there. When asked directly whether MasterCard, BlackRock, Franklin Templeton, are they showing interest in this XRP ledger, she responded, absolutely. Now, not saying there's any deal sign or anything concrete here, but saying they have expressed interest. Let's go to the XRP chart. But first, let's check DZ's Izzy DZ Stramus. Can the streak continue? I said, guys, we're below this parallel range. I'm expecting it to, shoot up, maybe do a retest, then continue the move to the upside. Look at that. This is on the 4 hour. Go to the 12, make it a little bit cleaner here. Go to the 8. Boom. We did not come down, but folks, it ain't over. It ain't over. So we still might come down, retest, complete the retest here. But so far, the prediction is kind of holding strong here. Let's look at XRP. XRP is just the tail of the parallel channel. It's been in this channel since July of 2025. So, I mean, at this point, we're talking about 200 days. It's been stuck in this hell. We have wick below. We've shot down below a couple times. Right now, it is holding as pretty strong support. If it falls to here, just say over the next few days, looking at $1.36 from $1.48. But the upside potential all the way up at $2. So we could do it, sooner rather than later.
Man,
so this little XRP TA for you folks. Hit the like button if you do hold some XRP. I know a lot of people love it. A lot of people hate it. Drew, I always say, don't hate it. Don't date it. Just trade it.
Sure. And, the XRPL DeFi activity is just immense. It's at a whopping $51 million for a that has 100.
You could make the argument that's not what XRPL is for. That's not what XRP is for.
Yeah, I think that's the way that they should move, though. Because they have the RLUSD, the stable coin, the swapping mechanism, right? And stable coins are getting way more regulatory clarity.
Should I steel man XRP here, Drew?
Do it. I want to hear it.
All right. Well, you don't want to give unsustainable yield because that brings in bad actors. So RLUSD should be primarily used for transmittance of money, remittance payments, not for staking in mysterious crypto smart contracts.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. That's very reasonable.
That's an attack vector. And I, as an XRP holder, I don't like the attack vectors.
Yeah, I just see that the burn mechanism and the amount of XRP burned per transaction is so minuscule that there is no outlook of actually controlling the supply that's out there in the world. Like it's a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a cent per transaction. And it'll take hundreds of trillions of dollars transacted on that network to have any tangible impact on the amount of tokens in supply.
I don't care if it's deflationary or not. I don't care. That's not why I buy it.
Why do you buy it?
It has a fixed supply. ETH is infinity, technically.
Technically,
ETH maxis.
But as ETH is continued to be, ETH is dominating RWAs. And the more it's used, it actually has a metric in it that controls the supply. But I can understand there's a little bit of part of me that thinks that the cult mentality of XRP is going to be able to hold it up to kind of like at least not major loss level. But I am completely fixated on things that have DeFi in them, because DeFi is other than self-custody, DeFi and yield on chain is the thing, the ace up our sleeve in crypto, so to speak, because we can self-custody assets on cold storage devices, but then we can also get yield and create our own monetary marketplaces. And I think that as the death wobble to Keynesian economics and debt-based systems continues to unfold in the traditional finance sector, more large whales of fiat currency are going to look at crypto in a more tangible way. So that is where my mind, I understand the movement behind XRP. I get it, but I'm really looking for utility-based projects that have actual burn mechanisms to keep supply under control and to provide value back to me as a token holder. But that's just me. That's just me.
That was good discussion. Real quick, I know we have a lot more news to hit, but we also missed this super chat here. DZ, are we cooked with our oil calls? I don't know if you've
no. So right now there's two camps. Why are oil futures down? Well, it does seem like Iran and US is open to talks, open to engaging. Because of that, people said, all right, well, maybe oil production won't be disrupted. Let me tell you the other side of that coin. I am hearing I don't even want to say, I've heard reports. Kim.com, mega upload, famous hacker. He's saying, well, there's some cables. There's been some communication leaving. Now I'm kind of getting into some dicey subjects here. It does maybe seem like there's potential that Israel is stalling purposefully with the help of the America. And this negotiation is just a gambit to draw out some actions with Ukraine and Russia, and also draw out actions with what Israel wants to do with the greater Israel area. And so this talks right now is all a gambit that's really not going to go anywhere. And so I'm still holding on. But I think at those levels, no one knows for sure. You can't just be trusting people that you see on X just posted some random thing, or a random Redditor. No one really knows. If you really want to know, look at Polymarket wallets. That's how you actually find out the alpha there.
Yeah, and it takes some time for a lot of this stuff to play out. And then a lot of people talking about Bitcoin dominance, asking us to take a look at that. So let's try to do that before we wrap up. But again, I know you've got probably a lot more articles to hit.
No, we're wrapping up. We still got a couple altcoin charts. I did find this interesting on the Lithium deposit. The Lithium deposit, it has been discovered for a while. Looks like, came out, a big report came out in 2023, some science journal. They investigated it. So it's been under construction for multiple years at this point. Phase 1 mechanical completion targeted late next year. Full production 2 years after that. Key delays, legal challenges from Native American tribes, environmental concerns, water right disputes, and lithium price slump. So probably going to see lithium potentially turn around. Native Americans, you know, what it is? They don't have casino revenue in Nevada, so they got to look elsewhere.
Yeah, all the typical stuff, water rights, environmental concerns. But just read between the lines there. Just say politics. There's other people angling to get their hands on it, and when, and timing, and all that sort of stuff. And that's why I love Bitcoin. It's more apolitical than anything else. There really is no counterparty. There really is no, the supply is what it is. The production is what it is. It's open to anybody to participate in, and it seems to be the best suited thing for the future of money and sovereignty and where everything.
I think the EPA is really in control of this conversation, because we've known about the lithium for a really long time. It's a matter of if our EPA here in the U.S. will take the cuffs off of manufacturing and minerals exploration to make it a cost-effective manner of getting our own natural resources out of the ground. We have the resources. We have a different EPA than China. We have a different EPA than a lot of the Southeast Asia countries, really countries across the world. We have one of the most strict EPAs in the world here in the United States. So we have the minerals. Will they take the cuffs off and let us go get them? That's to be decided. I think eventually they will, but it's a lot of red tape to get through. I come from manufacturing. It's a battle to get that stuff.
Look, just drop a nuke on the dormant volcano and then get the tunnel people in Vegas to stand out with nets. All right, put them to work. That's all I'm saying. All right, we do got some crypto funds here bleeding out for Bitcoin and ETH, but how about that XRP? How about the Solana? They are attracting some inflows here. Bitcoin lost 130 million. ETH lost 85 million. XRP gain 33. Solana gain 31. So bullish there. Cardano. I saw this Cardano article, talked about a couple Cardano charts here, talked about a couple trend lines. I'm going to point out those two trend lines and a third trend line. So one is going to be this multi-month downward trend line. Then we have a short term, like on the 1 hour here. Let's look at the two trend lines. Here's going to be that long-term multi-month downtrend. That's way, way, way up ahead. There's also this one right here. There's also a little multi-month upward downtrend. We identified that and then created a parallel channel. So we actually have two different trends here. We have the bottom trend line here, and you can see held on, lost it, bounced at a previous level from previous bear markets, and then lost it. But then establish a nice little trend line to the upside. But with this recent bearish news, bearish action over the last hour or so, still holding on. So the Cardano bulls are actually winning. And we see the Adam and Eve chart that appeared on Bitcoin also appeared on Cardano here. So Cardano bulls technically in control in the short term. So good job, Cardano bulls there. You're winning the race as of now. Bill Ackman, you just put $1 billion into a stock. They only have, I want to say, 7 or 10. They don't have too much funds. He put 1.5 into Facebook. So Bill Ackman, super, super bullish on Meta. I don't know if you guys have any quick thoughts on, just quick stock market. Are you bullish or bearish on chat too? Bullish or bearish on Facebook/Meta? Bullish or bearish? What do you guys got?
I don't dare bet against Meta. I don't dare bet.
So you don't bet against the Zuck, huh?
I don't bet against the Zuck. I don't bet against lizards. No, at all. And I've been mapping out the stock market. Like I have a whole, I think how many stocks have I laid out? Like 27 different stocks that I've been doing TA on in reference to that S&P 500 potential short-term dip that we covered at the earlier part. I don't bet against lizards though. So I'm not going
to. TJ, chat, bullish or bearish on Facebook/Meta?
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I'm kind of with Drew. It's hard to compete with really, really strong network effects, which Meta definitely has. I also interestingly think they have a chance to do extremely well with the latest AI advancements and watching what can happen. I don't know if you guys are in that. I'm in that AI bubble for sure, seeing what's coming out of, I think it's C-Dance and all sorts of other tools where AI kind of animation and creation is absolutely exploding. And so the meta, and real-time world generation is exploding. So I think the metaverse that they once imagined is a lot closer today than it was in the past. So I was literally this morning, I was seeing some different clips coming out. I'm like, and it was kind of showing through like a Meta Oculus goggles, like you can literally create anything you can imagine at this point. And if that vision comes to fruition of user-generated metaverse content that anybody can experience, kind of whatever a user can imagine, I could see that really, really exploding, and they're well positioned to take advantage of that. So kind of being the software side, kind of the entertainment side of a lot of the stuff that comes out of AI, not just the productivity and the work side. So yeah, I'm kind of with Drew. They've got huge user base, huge network effect, huge family of applications and infrastructure. So I wouldn't bet against them in the long term, just like I wouldn't bet against Apple or Google or a few of those, Amazon, several of the rest of them. Once you kind of get that critical mass, it's very, very hard to derail over the long term.
Speaking of Facebook, I saw there's a lot of countries with sub 80, sub 90 IQs. They're going to be totally one-shotted by these AI videos. They're going to be unable to determine if it's real or not. And I hadn't thought about like whole populations just creating uprisings over AI generated images. Like, the minister or the president or the prime. No, it's not real. They're like, yeah, I don't know. Looks pretty real to me. Let's go to the courthouses.
Let's go. Yeah. We're entering into a whole new world for sure.
Whole new world. And Drew's going to be covering this news a little bit later, folks. There is a big Morpho deal. Apollo entered in lending arena with the Morpho deal. So watch out. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you're checking out our shorts. That's going to be pretty big news there. Maybe he'll do a little Morpho TA for you folks.
Yeah. It's so maddening to we've been going after Canton literally since before it came out, Morpho, the moment it came out. But the viewership when I do dedicated videos on YouTube, nobody cares.
Right? Hey man, that was me in the early part of the Zcash run. Yeah, I'm like, I think I should make a video, guys. We're like, all right, we'll see. It was like the lowest viewed video for the
Silver too. You were doing the silver calls early, and people weren't jumping on. So, guys, if you didn't watch the Canton video over the weekend, go check it out. We did do an interview with the founder of Canton. They did a great job breaking that down, and yeah, very similarly, like Drew said, like nobody cares when you're early and nobody's heard about it for whatever reason. They don't care. After it's pumped dramatically and everybody's talking about it, that's when everybody goes and looks and buys. So
yeah, I said silver's gonna probably hit 125 and probably dump like 40% quickly. It went to 122, then dump 40%. No one watched the video, but hey, we closed our silver options. I should have been shorting it too, though.
That's what counts.
Might have done good there. We do have a lot of trading coming to X here. I saw Elon Musk tweeted at Alex Finn, previously known as NFT God, that X money is coming. Nikita Beer says in-app trading coming in a couple of weeks. Now they did, put out this post. I think it's worth reading. I generally want crypto to proliferate on X, but applications that create incentives to spam, raid, harass random users is not the way. Meaningfully degrades the experience for millions of people, only to enrich a few people here. And yes, we're launching a number of features in a couple weeks, including smart cash tags. Then they'll be able to trade stocks and crypto directly from your timeline. Taking on Robinhood here.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad you mentioned this. This is actually a pretty big deal. I forgot. I think this dropped Saturday. He made this comment, but this is an extremely important announcement because, like you said, they're moving into that area where they're competing with Robinhood. X, way more users, and it kind of is the financial social media platform where financial information circulates the fastest. So if you could cut down on that friction from seeing information and then moving over to execute on that information on whatever trading platform you're using, whether it's Robinhood, Kraken, Coinbase, or some traditional platform. If you can do that directly within X, that is more or less bringing financial markets to a whole new host of users that could move markets very, very quickly and increase that virality and things when people are buying. So I think this news coming out of X, adding basically buying and selling, they've already got, I want to say, they're licensed in about 40 different states for
they gave up on New York. Did you see that?
Yeah, they left. Yeah, they did. They gave up on New York and have licenses in many other places for this to be rolled out. So yeah, they're moving quickly towards it being an everything app. The money factor is very, very relevant. And again, this would be as big as basically, any other platform, probably the biggest social platform bringing financial integration into it. It's pretty substantial in my opinion.
All right. And there is a pretty good Musk quote here. The X platform has about 600 million average monthly users, according to Musk. Musk said, "We wanted to be such that if you wanted to, you could live your life on the X app." So
yeah, he wants it to be like WeChat, basically, like the everything app,
all
of the
in
US.
everything app. So a lot of competition. Amazon, they're trying to build towards that. Robinhood trying to also Sydney build towards that. Now you have X building towards that, and it does seem like Mark Zuckerberg eventually wants to build towards that. Let me ask you guys and chat, who, in your opinion, has the best shot of winning this battle?
Of the everything app battle?
Yeah. In America, at least.
X, who are the other ones?
X, Amazon is also a major player here. You're also seeing, I think, Facebook. It's pretty clear that that's what they're gravitating towards. Of those three, I suppose. So Amazon, Facebook, X.
Man.
Yeah, I mean, Meta has a lot more of the pieces as it stands today, and that's kind of coming back to the network effect. When you think about marketplace, tons of people do buying and selling on Meta in that regard. Communities, a lot of those. Obviously, they've got Instagram, WhatsApp, and a lot of those. They've got chat, largely across the world. So that's tough. If you're talking about
one's betting on Mark Zuckerberg.
If you're talking about US, it's interesting because I would say a lot of these are trying to do it internationally, even like they're going to win a lot in kind of emerging markets compared to established market, in my opinion. So X, I think we love X, but I think we live a lot of our lives on it, and we're somewhat biased. So I think it kind of depends on the type of user, and if it's people that like to read and people that like more. Maybe what's the phrase, like bleeding edge type information, that's X. So maybe a lot more thought leaders will be on X, but a lot more of the general public, I would say, would be on Meta or Amazon.
We got Illuminati here saying we might see it bifurcated. We're going to see Meta for people who lean left and X for people who lean right.
Well,
pretty good.
Illuminati knows, I guess. So.
It might not be a one winner take all. I actually think Jeff Bezos and Coinbase as a team would be the winning combination, because Amazon is now Santa Claus and it is absolutely bulldozing Main Street. Like most products that I see being bought are bought through Amazon. So, and I feel like in general, Coinbase is building a financial infrastructure for a kind of like a WeChat type app. So I think it's going to need to not just be X alone making it happen, or Meta alone making it happen, or Amazon alone. I think the one that links up with Coinbase for the financial ease of use in the background running is going to be the winner. I think Amazon.
You crypto freak.
I
You're
like
a freak for crypto. You think people care about Coinbase?
No, they don't.
Zoomers want Robinhood.
They don't
want
care about
speculative
Coinbase.
shitcoins. They're going to fall 99%.
That's the point. Is they need a face. They need a face that people are very used to. And
so they choose Lex Luthor of Coinbase.
No, he's saying
That ain't gonna work either.
Amazon partnering with Coinbase.
Yes.
And so you're buying and selling on Amazon, but you're using Base to settle a lot of the transactions,
Right.
or Coinbase to do a lot of the back end, which actually I kind of like that as a dark horse pick. It could be an even completely new branded product, and it could be some interesting twists. Could be Apple, right? You throw the AI mix into it, and some of these AI social media platforms that could roll out with a combination of Apple, Google, Coinbase partnership could make for some very interesting everything apps. And I would imagine, the other big piece, OpenAI and acquiring Claudebot or OpenClaw, that is fascinating to me. And you could end up seeing it being a platform that is built for AI agents, and then users start interfacing with their agents, doing all sorts of different things, and that becomes your everything app. It's just which a lot of people are doing through WhatsApp or through Telegram or something right now, where it's just a chat conversation between you and your agent, and then your agent goes out and does all sorts of other stuff. So, but we're getting pretty off topic here. But we can do this for a while.
Yeah.
All right, well, folks, that is our show for today. I'm going to be working on this actual bottom indicator for Bitcoin, because every indicator you see, this calls the bottom. And every time you look at the charts, you're like, well, dip below, like every bear market. So what are you talking about, bottom indicator? I may have actually found a real bottom indicator. I actually got to investigate like what the heck it is. So I'm going to do a deep dive. So turn on those notifications. Make sure you're hitting the like button when you see our videos. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, of course. And for TJ, Drew, and I'm Nick Valdez. You may know me as DZ. And for my dogs, we'll see you guys in the future. Smash the like button on the way out.
Yeah, leave us a comment.
We just wanted to take a quick second to shout out our sponsor, Arculus. They are a cold storage hardware wallet, helps you secure all of your digital assets for the future. Just tap this thing to the back of your phone and boom, you're in. We wouldn't be able to do this without them, but also wouldn't be able to do this without you guys, the Disco fam. You've supported us a lot over the years. If you want to support the channel now, just use the code DC20. It gets you 20% off this card. It's the #1 way you can support this channel going forward. Thank you for your support. We'll see you at the top.